Is it possible that the UK has become something of a dictatorship? Well, that might depend on two things. Are the elected MPs really representing your best interests as a constituent in Parliament? And do we have free speech? The combination of both of those may result in a true democracy. But I have one of my lovely viewers to thank and the Thinking Coalition Substack here, which I'll link in the description below, for the content of this video, or at least the idea for this video, because this may not be as straightforward as it seems. So first of all, if you like the idea of the freedom of expression, please do subscribe to the channel, because that seems to be something that is being eroded in recent years. Officially, because we'll move to the freedom of expression first, because this is the Global Expression Report to measure the degree of the freedom of expression worldwide. Now, some areas on the map you may see are in crisis in respect of the freedom of expression, and you may always have thought or hoped to have think of the UK as a place of free speech, as is the United States. However, the UK has now fallen into a less restricted category as opposed to open in terms of freedom of expression. It has fallen, as you can see in this chart just here, to 79, indicating that we are no longer quite free to just say and discuss what we wish. But then that might lead you to think, well, what do our MPs do? Are they representing our interests in Parliament? Because that is very much what this article is talking about here. Because the representation in Parliament by our MPs to ideally represent the views of constituents around the country and thus get a collective pool of interest into Parliament, which obviously decides our laws, is quite an important thing. Now, what this article has quite rightly pointed out is that there's been a change in the description of what it is that MPs do. Here are two different versions of the same website. The right-hand side is the current version as it appears this morning, and the left-hand side version, I believe, up until around about the beginning of June. And there are some very key differences. Let's take the previous version first. And it says as follows: the UK public elects members of Parliament to represent their interests and concerns in the House of Commons. MPs consider and can propose new laws as well as raising issues that matter to you in the House. This includes asking government ministers questions about current issues, including those which affect local constituents. MPs split their time between working in Parliament itself, working in the constituency that elect them, and working for their political party. Some MPs from the government party, or parties, become government ministers with specific responsibilities in certain areas such as health or defence. These MPs do not stop working for their constituency, and whatever their role in government or Parliament, will still hold regular surgeries to help their constituents. In other words, they might be the housing minister, they might be the education minister, it might be any other kind of minister of government, but still hold that role to represent the constituents and their interests and concerns in the House of Commons. Or at least they did so, because that was the previous definition. The new version, however, isn't quite the same. Reading from the right-hand side here, it's subtly different, so bear with me. MPs work at both the UK Parliament and in their local constituencies. How and where they work is largely up to them to decide. There is no job description or contract of employment for MPs, nor any rules on how they should balance the competing demands of these two roles. However, MPs must abide by standards of conduct, rules and conventions. For more, see the accountability and standards. How an MP decides to divide their time can depend upon the schedule of business in the House of Commons, the distance of their constituencies from London, their family responsibilities, or whether they've taken on any additional responsibilities in the House of Commons or in government. If an MP has taken on an extra role in the House of Commons, such as a committee chair, or in government, such as a ministerial role, they may need to spend more time at Westminster, particularly when the House is sitting. MPs employ a small number of staff to assist with work at Parliament and help to run the offices in the constituency. This allows work to continue in both settings while the MP travels between the two. Now, just to avoid confusion, whilst there may be a small number of staff, if I bring on a spreadsheet here, this is from 23 to 24, ordered by the highest staff spending first. you can see many MPs have a staffing spend of £250,000. And this list goes on and on and on and on. So we spend a great deal for our MPs to employ staff. You can see the list as I'm scrolling, coming right down to, I think some MPs spend literally nothing. Right at the bottom here, we have some that spend nothing, but down to very small figures, down from £250,000 for many MPs. So they do spend a fair amount on staff. Now, that is the principal couple of paragraphs compared between the old version and the new version. The interests bit is missing from the current version. In fact, interests now is limited to this bit here. It says, although each MP is sent from one local area, at Parliament, they may also consider the best interests of the entire nation. Now, that starts to sound a little bit dictatorial to me. It starts to sound like they decide what's best for the whole country, not just you in your particular area. And so if every MP is in Parliament, in the House of Commons, deciding what's best for the entire nation, and therefore potentially following the party line and voting the way the party intends, then I can understand why some people might say that that is edging ever so slightly towards a dictatorship as opposed to an elected person to represent your interests in the House of Commons. Now, there's obviously further sections on this website to compare here. What do MPs do in the constituency? That appears on both, broadly speaking. Although on the left, it just says in their constituency, MPs often hold a surgery in their office, etc., attend functions, businesses, visit businesses and schools and so on, and says broadly the same thing here. Now, none of this is to say that they are not representing your interests in Parliament, but as this article here quite rightly points out, this is now missing from the current responsibility of MPs on their official website. And as Alex writes here in the opening paragraph, I've been writing quite a lot about the fact that MPs repeatedly fail to perform their responsibility to represent their UK public interests and concerns in the House of Commons. My claim is based on the increasing amount of legislation that is being passed in Parliament in the teeth of strong public opposition. In particular, I was looking at the latest approval of abortion to birth in Parliament, despite the fact that a huge majority of citizens do not support this move. And again, this comes towards the freedom of expression. Are we free, genuinely, to say what we think? Apparently not. Apparently, our speech is only now less restricted than other nations, not open as it once was. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section below, and whether you have stories about how your freedom of speech has been curtailed in some way. I spoke recently about a case that I was involved with. I was sued in the High Court, where they wanted to shut down public commentary on a van that did a drive by a cyclist, was prosecuted by the police, then an argument ensued between them, and eventually sued me off the back of the third-party comments with the aim of taking down my videos. I'll link that video below in case you missed it, but this is not a society that we really should have to endure. We shouldn't have to fight high court battles just to maintain the freedom of expression. I've heard of many cases, some of which I can't speak of recently, where people have been sued for inordinate sums of money to try to silence them for speaking out, for speaking up, or for questioning companies or indeed the establishment. So as an advocate of free speech, I urge you to please subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my Off the Record channel, which I'll link below, and let me know what you think about whether the MPs really should be representing your best interests in Parliament. But we really are at a point now where we are not simply making up these things. They are measurable, they are tangible, and they have a measurable and tangible effect on individuals, including me and including you. So please do subscribe to the channel, and I will keep my eye on this, and thank you for watching.